What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have another episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly, where we dive into the previous week for the Chicago Bulls, discuss obviously the positives and the negatives, as well as look forward to the week ahead. We had loads of games that took place this week, and ultimately, I would say overall, not necessarily a bad week at all, right? But in the same vein, a couple of very disappointing performances that do make you question everything about the Chicago Bulls team at this point in time. So let's dive in and let's talk about the Chicago Bulls in this video. But before we get any further, if you like the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And let me know what you guys think about the Chicago Bulls, their previous week and upcoming week to come. So loads of games, right? We had roughly around 5 games this week. So that's a game pretty much every second day with a back-to-back. So it was a very brutal week in terms of games. And we only lost the one game. We lost 2 games out of the week. So 3-2 overall. So a positive week in general. It's a week where we can look at and say our record is better than the previous week. But the performances in there weren't convincing. And that is something we definitely need to take note of. Starting with that game against the Utah Jazz. I did mention this last week, so I guess technically you could rule it out, but I'll add it in here just for the people that are from Australia. We lost this game 150 to 147. It was a double overtime experience. It was a very difficult game. And at the end of the day, it was a game that I think we should have won, personally, considering the personnel on both teams. But Utah are playing pretty well at the moment. The Bulls, I mean, we are winning games for the most part. We're doing okay. It was a tough one. It was a very enjoyable game to watch as a neutral, probably a little bit heart-wrenching for a Bulls fan, but so are every single one of these games that took place afterwards, starting with the Denver Nuggets. We won this game 130 to 127. It was essentially a Vucevic, I guess, final shot again that kind of led us to this victory. Again, it was a game where we had control in the fourth quarter. We had a 10-plus point lead. We did very, very well to come back in that third quarter. And in the end, we let it go. And we brought Denver to the point where they took the lead for a little bit in that fourth quarter. Now, thankfully, nothing really led from that. And the Bulls did capitalize and sealed the deal. They picked up a victory over an incredible opposition. We tend to play very well against Denver, and this is just another factor in that. But unfortunately, you know, you look at a win like that, at the time, I think everybody was super ecstatic with it. And then the next game takes place, and it's against the Portland Trailblazers, and we win this one 122 to 121. Now, again, Portland is another team that's fighting tooth and nail with each and every single team that they play. But there's a bit of a trend going on here. It seems like all of our games really go down to that final shot. And you can say it's lucky, you can say it's skill, say whatever you like. One thing we all know is that it's not sustainable. If you keep going down to the final shot every single game, you're going to eventually lose one, eventually lose multiple, eventually lose more than you win. You don't want to always put yourself in that situation where you need to bail yourself out in that final shot. You know, that's what Vucevic did. You know, he took that final shot again and he made a big one. And at the end of the day, it is great. It is beautiful that that's what we're seeing. But we need to see more sustainability in our play, not play certain quarters and let other quarters get away from us. And we saw that with Portland as well. And then, obviously, the outlier happened, the Miami Heat. We lost this one, 143 to 107. I don't even want to talk about this game, to be honest. Let's just move on. An NBA Cup game. It was an embarrassing loss, a loss that made you question everything. But it's also a loss where you demanded a response in the next game. And I meant a massive response, an unbelievably strong response. And did we get that? Well, we won the game, but we didn't get that against the Washington Wizards. We won that game 121 to 120. It was another final shot to kind of seal the deal. Yeah, there were a couple of luck factors that went our way, but we obviously made the shot that mattered, and the Wizards could not recover from that. They turned it over in the final seconds of the game. People are calling it the best tank job of all time. You can say whatever you like. At the end of the day, it's not the response I wanted. It still makes me question everything this Bulls team has to offer. And it is severely frustrating to get into these moments where you feel like you should be dominating a team and it just doesn't happen at any point throughout the game. Now, in 2 months' time, we're going to forget about that game against the Wizards. We're going to forget about how we didn't deliver the way that we wanted. We're going to forget about how this team has continually probably, maybe, unless we're still in the situation 2 months from now where we're always falling to the final shot or we're always going down to the final shot. But we're going to forget about these moments. And the win is the most important thing. But right now, I still feel frustrated. I still feel like a response is needed. And in our next game against the Pelicans, who have only won 2 games this season, you have to absolutely deliver that. Otherwise, more questions will need to be answered. So that's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. Now, individual awards. This is obviously, considering 4 or 5 games, very tough to give. We got the Defensive Player of the Week, Sixth Man of the Week, Must Improve of the Week, and Player of the Week in general. I want to start off with the Must Improve of the Week. And again, I look to that Miami Heat team. To be honest, I look at the Wizards game as well, and I feel like you got to give a lot of criticism, in my opinion, to our starters this week. Our entire starting lineup, I think, is in the must-improve category. Now, some of those games, our bench didn't deliver, right? But at the end of the day, the bench isn't going to provide for you each and every single game. They do a lot more than what many benches out in the league are expected to do. They are a very good bench. And yes, there were some games in there, Miami Heat game particularly, where they just didn't play very well. I would even say the Wizards game, they didn't do great, right? But I think our starting lineup, whether it's the changes that need to be made, implementing Coby White on a more permanent basis, maybe it's swapping around some of the forwards, maybe it is Nikola Vucevic from time to time, I don't know. Regardless of that, our starters, in my opinion, in most of these games got outplayed by the other team starters. In Utah, they got outplayed. In Denver, they got outplayed massively. The bench scored 66 points. I think it was that game, and that allowed us to win. The Miami Heat, they got outplayed, and I would even make the case in the Wizards game, they got outplayed. And we had to rely on our bench to kind of seal the deal there. So our starters, Coby White, when he gets in there, will be fine. Josh Giddey is playing an all-star level player. He's probably my player of the week. Nikola Vucevic made damn near 3 buzzer beaters this week. But they're still my must improve, because the plus minus and just the way that the game goes, from the terrible starts to how we always let teams come back in the fourth, I feel like a lot of that is the responsibility of our starting lineup. So I think all of them deserve the must improve of the week. In terms of the sixth man of the week, this one is a little bit more difficult, but I am going to give it to Jalen Smith. My thing was, it was either Jalen Smith or Ayo Dosunmu, but we had a couple of games in there where Ayo started, and Trey Jones recently returned as well, which was really, really nice. But ultimately, I think Jalen Smith had the consistent week. He was the consistent bench player, got near double-doubles almost every night, played really, really well for the most part, and he's in good form, to be honest. I didn't expect this coming into the season. I didn't expect him to be in this sort of form, but he's playing really, really well, and he's making his claim for minutes hard to ignore. And let's hope he could keep that up. Defensive player of the week, I want to give it to Matas Buzelis. Purely because this man, whether you like it or not, whether he's playing great defense or not, he is rim protecting. And he's blocking shots. He's making an impact in that way. And I don't think anyone on this team can really make that claim outside of him. Vucevic definitely can't make that claim. Jalen Smith, I don't think he can make that claim. Guys like Patrick Williams, Josh Giddey can't make that claim. All the guys that grab rebounds and really compete in that area, only Matas Buzelis is the one that's truly getting up there and blocking those shots. And he had an unbelievable one. I think it was against the Wizards, man. I think he had 2 blocks in that game. And one of them was just unbelievable. It was just one of the best blocks I've seen all season. Like, it was that good. I don't think I even mentioned it in the game reaction, but that is definitely something that is hard to ignore. He is my defensive player of the week. But my player of the week is Josh Giddey. I feel like he's averaging a triple-double this season. I don't know the exact statistics, but I think he got his 4th triple-double this season. He's always in and around there. He's always contributing in one way, form, or fashion. I believe he's our leader at the young age that he's at. He's our leader. He's our offensive leader. He's our playmaking leader. He is basically, I would say, an on-court coach as well. And Billy Donovan trusts him in that role. To me, it's not even close how much. I know Vucevic it should be in there as well for all the things that he did this week, for the closing out of games. He's becoming a real expert at that. But at the end of the day, overall play-wise, I think it has to be Josh Giddey. I just think it has to be. And then, yeah, that's really all. I hope I didn't miss anything this week, but that's all the awards that we have to give. So what's next, ladies and gentlemen? Our first game this week is in a couple of hours' time, and is against the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, this team has 2 wins on their season. They're not playing particularly the best basketball, but they're always a team that I feel we never play well against. I know they're a different team now. They don't have a lot of the guys that usually beat us, but they still have a team that I would be relatively fearful of. And I just don't think we ever play well against the Pelicans. They're sort of that bogey team, I believe. So that's going to be a tough game. I don't care how many wins or losses they have on their season. But like I said, I want a big response in one of these games. When is it going to happen? Hopefully we can come out there and absolutely destroy the Pelicans. That's what I would like to see. And then we've got a game in the NBA Cup against the Charlotte Hornets. Now, take the NBA Cup out of it. We're not going to be in the NBA Cup for much longer. We are not going to go to Vegas. We're not going to do any of that, right? But again, Charlotte is a team that is a winnable team. We do play relatively good basketball against Charlotte. They're a young team. Obviously, when they're healthy, they're a dangerous team as well. But they're still not at the level that you want them to be as an organization at this point if you're a Charlotte Hornets fan. The Bulls are in a better situation, and they have been for several years now. So you expect them to deliver in that sort of environment, in that sort of game, even if it is away from home. By the way, most of these games are away. In fact, all of our games are away from home this time around, with the next one being against the Indiana Pacers, another team that obviously riddled with injury with no Tyrese Halliburton, but a team that's not playing their best basketball. So these 3 games are very winnable. In fact, you would put us down as the favorites. But this is our issue. We play down to the opponent's level. Will we do it again? Because if I'm giving a prediction, I think we should go 3-0 this week. That's how I think it should go. Do I think it will happen? My heart is telling me yes. My brain is telling me no. My brain is telling me there's too much evidence to suggest that the Bulls are going to pick up easy wins or favorable wins. But my heart is telling me that's exactly what we need to do. If you're serious about our season, you get 2 New Orleans Pelicans in front of you. You need to steamroll them. You get the Indiana Pacers with no Tyrese Halliburton. You need to steamroll them. You know, if you get, I forgot the middle of the week. Hold on, let me figure that out real quick. The Charlotte Hornets in the NBA Cup, who have 4 wins or 5 wins on their season, you need to steamroll them. That's what my heart is saying. So I'm going to say 3-0 because obviously you got to go with your heart these days, no matter how wicked it may be. And we'll see where we go. By the way, don't listen to that last statement, but I don't know. I'm waffling at that point. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next week's episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly, and I'll see you in the game reaction tomorrow. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.